the Weimar Republic, the ounce of gold went from 100 marks to 87 trillion marks per ounce. Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the Weimar Republic. Before we get into it, please drop a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. So what is the Weimar Republic? The Weimar Republic, also officially named the German Reich, the first German Reich, it was a period of German history lasting from 1918 to 1933. It was a constitutional federal republic. So what happened in the Weimar Republic economically? At the beginning of World War I, Germany went off the gold standard and suspended the rights of its citizens to redeem their currency, the mark, for gold and silver. The number of marks in circulation in Germany quadrupled during the war. In times of uncertainty, people tend to save every penny. So even though the German government was pumping tons of currency into the system, no one was spending it yet. Just before the end of the World War, the exchange rate between gold and the mark was about 100 marks per ounce. But by 1920, it was fluctuating between 1,000 and 2,000 marks per ounce. Retail prices followed shortly, rising by 10 or 20 times. Anyone who had savings found that they could only buy 10% of what they could the year before. In the first half of 1921, inflation slowed, the economy was recovering, and businesses were booming. But now, because of the war, Germany had to repay reparations, so the government never stopped printing currency. And in the summer of 1921, prices started to rise again, and by July of 1922, prices had risen another 700%. This was breaking point. The German people lost their confidence in the economy and their currency. The power of their savings fell by 90% in 1919, so this time they knew better, they were smarter this time. Suddenly, everybody started to spend their currency as soon as they got it. The currency became a hot potato, and no one wanted to hang on to it for a second. Germany made the first reparations payment to France with most of its gold, and made up the balance with iron, coal, wood, and other materials. But it simply didn't have the resources to meet its second payment. So in January of 1923, France and Belgium invaded and occupied Ruhr, the industrial heartland of Germany. The invading troops took over the iron and steel factories and coal factories and railways. In response, the German Weimar government adopted a policy of passive resistance and non-cooperation, paying the factory workers, all 2 million of them, not to work. This was the last nail in the German mark's coffin. Meanwhile, the government put its printing press into overdrive. According to the New York Times, on February 9th, 1923, Germany had 33 printing plants that were belching out 45 billion marks per day. By November, it was 500 quadrillion a day. That's a massive amount. Germany's public confidence, however, was falling faster than the government could print the currency, so a downward economic spiral would take place, a point of no return. No matter how many marks the government printed, the value fell quicker than the new currency could enter into circulation, so the government had no choice but to keep printing more and more and more. And by early November 1923, the German financial system was breaking down. A pair of shoes that cost 12 marks before the war now cost 30 trillion marks. A loaf of bread went from half a mark to 200 billion marks. A single egg went from 0.08 marks to 80 billion marks. The German stock market also fell from 88 points at the end of the war to 26.8 billion marks. but its purchasing power had fallen by more than 97%. Only gold and silver outpaced inflation. The price of gold had gone from around 100 marks per ounce to 80 trillion marks per ounce. But this is just the price, not the value. That matters. And the purchasing power of gold and silver had gone up exponentially. When Germany's hyperinflation finally came to an end in November 15th, 1923, the currency supply had grown from 29.2 billion marks at the beginning of 1919 to 497 quintillion marks, an increase of the currency supply of more than 17 billion times. The total value of the currency supply, however, had dropped 97.7% against gold, as we can see by this chart. So, the poor people in Germany were already poor before the crisis, so they were affected the least by this. The rich people in Germany, however, were a lot smarter and got richer. But the people who suffered the most from this was the middle class of Germany, that got hurt the most. In fact, it was all obliterated. There was no middle class left after this. Those who could quickly adapt to a world they had never seen before, a world turned upside down, prospered. It didn't matter what class they came from, poor or middle class. If they could adapt, and adapt well, they could become wealthy in a matter of months. At this time, an entire city block of real estate in downtown Berlin could be purchased for 25 ounces, a value of $500 at a time. 25 ounces for gold. The reason for this is that those who held their wealth in the form of currency became poorer and poorer as they watched their purchasing power destroyed by the government. On the flip side, those who held their wealth in the form of gold watched their purchasing power increase exponentially as they became wealthy by comparison. Here is the important lesson. During financial upheaval, a bubble popping, a market crash, a depression, or a currency crisis such as this one, wealth is not destroyed. It is merely transferred. During the Weimar Republic hyperinflation, gold and silver didn't just win, but it smashed their opponent into the ground by delivering yet another devastating knockout blow to fiat currency. This just proves that gold is better than fiat currency. Those who held onto real money instead of currency reaped the rewards many times over. So anyway guys, I hope you learned something from this video. If you did, please drop a like and hit the subscribe button. I'm going to be releasing more videos in the next few days, so stay tuned.